There's a bit delay on the slide. As the Contigo guys mentioned, my name is Sam Pereira. I'm the head of integration at Devscope, a consultant company based in Portugal. I work daily in enterprise integration, and that means BizTalk Server and now Azure Integration Services. I'm one lover, a Star Wars fan with my youngest son. You have my emails there, and I am a father of 3 kids, which is a lot in the house. It's a house full of noise, and we like it. I'm also a trainer, delivering enterprise integration training course about BizTalk Server and Azure Logic App and Azure Integration Service. And this is the commercial part. My company asked me to put some slides here. If you are in the need for some kind of OCR system, take a look at Smart Documented Cloud. It's a product that Devscope has about kind of processing your invoices, your paper, your documents, and extract information and integrate that in a very easy way. I'm not going to speak too much. The slides are going to be available. You can go watch, and you have a special discount. If you have, just use Sandro 10, and you can later on go and check more details about that. Okay, so I fulfill my part about Devscope. So now let's go to the important stuff. And let's start by removing the big elephant from the room, that is BizTalk Server. Okay, this is not a talk about BizTalk Server, but it's always that is BizTalk there. Okay, this question appears since I started working in BizTalk 18 years ago, more or less. Okay, no, BizTalk is not there. Okay, so that's important. You don't see that from Microsoft. You don't see too much news from Microsoft, but BizTalk is not there. Okay, so at the moment we have BizTalk 2020. There is no communication from Microsoft saying that it's going to be the last version or it's going to be discontinuous. The support, the mainstream support, is until 2028 and extended 2013. So it's a lot of time that we still have using the current version of BizTalk. Okay? Again, I don't know if there is going to be a new version. I don't really need a new version. I need platform alignments. That is what I want, because I know that there is SQL Server 2022 and Windows Server 2022, and in terms of companies, it's important to have update these systems for security stuff and also maintenance. So I guess this is what I want. BizTalk process the same as in 2004, 2008. The core is still the same. It's a very reliable product and works amazing. So yes, BizTalk is still here. It's still a very valued product. Okay, there are many companies that is not ready to jump to the cloud, neither going to the cloud. Okay, I have clients that they work in on-premise facilities. They are there. They cannot be on the cloud, and there is no option at the moment to do the same as BizTalk do in an easy way that is there. And we always have this hybrid. Okay, so hybrid is still a very good option for many clients, and even during this migration journey that we are going to speak, is still very, very valid. Okay, so yes, let's remove that. And another question is this migration from BizTalk to Azure is going to be relaxed, easy? And no, it's not going to be. Okay? I'm not going to lie. Okay, it's not going to be easy. Okay, BizTalk is not a service; it's a platform. Okay, it has many features on top of it. It can do a lot of things. I'm not saying that you cannot do the same on the Azure stuff, but it's going to be different, okay? So it's going to be a complex and time-consuming task because you have to redesign a lot of things. You have to reinvent a lot of things, and you have to test all of this, okay? So if I migrate BizTalk 2016 to 2020, I can do it in 1 month, 2 months, depending on the number of solutions and the features that we are using. It's quite simple to migrate BizTalk 2016 to 2020. It's just recompile it. That's it. Okay? Recompile, deploy. Nothing happens. That's simple as that. Okay? The problem is that when you create a new environment, you have to pass again for the test phase. And you have to have commitment by different teams, be available, and that's going to be a time consuming. So imagine that now we have to redesign, we have to build that in a different way, and you have to test it with the business and approval. That's going to be a time consuming task. So it's not going to be easy to do that. It's going to take a little bit of time, okay? And by doing that, it's also going to be a little bit expensive, no? Because we have to book resources, technical resources. You have to book the teams to work with testing, approvals, and so on and so forth. That is going to be cost. Some of them is going to be internally costs, others going to be external, like hiring consultants. But it's not going to be that. It's going to be a little bit expensive, okay? What I always say that when you take this journey, think about innovate. Do not migrate as is, okay? Take this opportunity because you are going to reinvent some of this stuff. Try to innovate. What can be different? Because I have applications that they are running the same way for the last 15 years. That's a long time, okay? So it's on that client. It's working, do not touch, leave it, and that's it. So in this case, some of the stuff are going to be different. Try to innovate, try to do something different. Speak with the business, saying, can we do different? Can we improve that? What is the pain fault of your current solution, and what can we do different to be better, okay? But it is possible. You can migrate everything that is inside BizTalk to Azure Integration Service. And I say Azure Integration Service. I don't say the Logic App, okay? Many say, oh, we are going to migrate BizTalk to Logic App. Impossible, okay? Logic App is just the orchestration. You are going to migrate to Azure Integration Service and more service, because even Azure Integration Service is not enough, okay? You have to use other service on Azure. But this is not a session about should we stay or should we leave BizTalk. We are already decided that we are going to migrate, and we have to make our choice. Our solutions is not staying that. And even, again, Ivory on this migration journey is going to be very useful for you guys because, well, we are not going to migrate one shot because that's going to be a nightmare, and I'm going to speak that in the future. Next slides. And to help this migration phase, sometimes staying parts on premise and create other parts in Azure and do this hybrid migration is going to facilitate and help you do this kind of journey, okay? But this is a session that we already decided, we are going to move on, and we are going to Azure, okay? Next. So, integration, it is not easy, okay? It's not a fancy technology like Power BI that sells everywhere, that we present the dashboard and people go crazy. it's not. They know us when the system is down, and everyone knows your name. Okay, everyone knows that this is the middleware fault. Okay, it's the BizTalk fault. But it's going to be the same in Azure. It's going to be the middleware fault. And it takes, for us enterprise integrators, a lot of skills, no? And I faced these with Azure and consultant engineers that they lack some of these information. So we live in a world that inconsistency is our world, okay? We have inconsistent informations, different formats, different protocols, and we have concepts of long-running operations. Try to explain what is a long-running operation to some of these new guys. It's not going to be easy, okay? Fault tolerance. I had one meeting and I spent half an hour saying that, okay, we decide everything that is good, we know how to communicate, what to do. What happens if the system fails? What's going to be our decision? What we need to do? Sandro, it never fails. That's an Azure function. It scales automatically, it never fails. Guess what? 1 week I destroyed with BizTalk, I destroyed that Azure function. And we had an immersion meeting. I was the only one smiling in that meeting, saying, I told you so. Okay? Guarantee deliver, re-entry. So if it fails, we have to reprocess again the message. How are we going to do that? Retry mechanisms in connectivities, persistent points, okay? Backup channels, massive number of endpoints, many systems, all of these dynamic configurations, okay? Based on our message, our payload, we define what to do. We define where to communicate, different FTP, a different email, a different SQL server, and so on, okay? And on top of that, we have to monitor all of these things, okay? Because everything is going to be the middleware fault. And we need to monitor and say, no, it's not my fault, it's the system, and so on and so forth. This is everything that BizTalk brings you kind of out of the box. Azure integrations do not provide all of this out of the box, okay? So, but we, as enterprise integrations, we know all of this. So playing with BizTalk or playing with Azure Integration Services, there's a different tools. We have the mindset, we have the skills, we know how to implement that, okay? So it's going to be easier. And I always say that the BizTalk guys are going to be the best ones to migrate to Azure because you know all of this, okay? But BizTalk, again, is a system. It provides everything in a single solution. It has all the tools that you need, kind of in a box, let's say it this way, okay? Everything is person, is reliable, okay? We have a machine, or at least, in fact, it was 2 years ago that I migrated my last BizTalk 2004. 2 years ago, which is insane, but it's working, no touch, okay? That's how much reliable BizTalk is, okay? And the focus, when we design our solutions, we focus on the message, okay? We get a message, XML or JSON, and we need to transform to another message. We design our solution, focus on the message, deploy it, and then we configure the channels, okay? If it's an FTP, a secure FTP, a file share, you name it, I don't care, it's just a configuration later on, okay? The only maybe difference is when you use log adapters, and that's kind of a little bit binding with SQL or SAP and something like that, no? But the focus is on the message, okay? Now, Azure Integration System, Azure Integration Service, the only consistent that we have is inconsistent, okay? Everything changed in Azure, okay? Dramatically, okay? When we start this phase of migration, Microsoft says Azure, Logic app, isolated environment, highs environment was the way to go, the highest environment, okay? If you want to migrate, you have your own dedicated environment of Azure, that was the way. It's deprecated now, okay? We have until next year to remove ICE, because ICE is gone. Then you have to migrate to Logic App consumption, Logic App standards, as a function, and so on and so forth. That's how fast Azure is going. And it's not the BizTalk 2004 that stays there. Okay? You cannot afford that. You have to go fast. You have to work fast. Okay? Well, it's fast release cadence, which is good, but we also force the companies to go fast. And the focus of our solutions is not really in the message anymore, okay? Because if you are going to do an orchestration, you use the connectors, okay? So we are binding more to the connectors than from the message itself. It's kind of a mix. It's not the same story that we have in BizTalk. That's why I say that we need a lot of redesign by migrating BizTalk to Azure, okay? Even if you have the same SQL, well, BizTalk uses XML to communicate with the SQL. The SQL connector, the Azure SQL connector, does not use XML. It's a different technology behind. It's a REST service. So we cannot longer have these XML to XML and mapping. We have to redo this part, at least. Okay, so there is a lot of redesign on that. And there is no PubServe out of the box. If you want PubServe, you have to implement PubServe most of the ways by using Service Bus. If you want persistence, maybe you have to redesign your solution and use Service Bus to do this kind of persistence, because Logic App does not persist that execution. It failed, it fails, it can resume from the start, not from the failing point. Microsoft is doing some innovation there, and probably in the future we have this kind of persistence, but not at the moment, okay? So it is different, okay? There is a lot, and when we have our solution also, well, after we create our BizTalk environments, we don't care too much about the environment per se, we care about the solutions. When we migrate to Azure, we cannot only look to the solution itself, we need to work also with the environment. Which type of service we are going to use? Are we going to use premium, standard? Because that's going to be a huge big difference in terms of cost, okay? So it's not just a developer, it's a developer with a mix also with Azure skills and money also on the top. This is not new for you guys, so Azure Integration Services is composed by server service, Logic App, the orchestration, API management to expose our APIs, event grid, service bus, data factor for ETL, and Azure functions. And again, some of them are overlapping in terms of functionalities, no? We can use Logic App to our workflow, but we can use also Azure functions. Yeah? There is durable functions, so we can do some kind of orchestration. Sometimes it's about what is your policy in your organization, low code, no code first, or code first approach instead of low code. And believe me that some companies difference that behavior, no? So yeah. Now, what we need to say no from the beginning, no? When we start this migration plan, we cannot go and say, okay, let's migrate. Just with nonsense. We have to kind of first plan our migration, no? So before, at least on this phase, we have to say no to certain things, okay? So first is, don't think that you can migrate as is BizTalk. Okay, the only thing that you can migrate as is BizTalk is to put the BizTalk machine running on Azure. That's it. Okay? That's the only way as is. Okay? So do not think that you can migrate exactly as it is inside BizTalk, because that will not happen. Okay? Don't think that it's going to be an easy and short ride, because it's not going to be again. Okay? And again, do not think that just migrate for eyes you are innovating. Okay? Because you are not. Most of people saying, I'm going to remove BizTalk because I'm going to innovate. And guess what? BizTalk is processing a file to a file. And they are going to put on Azure a file to a file. That's not innovation. That's using a different tool doing the same stuff. Okay? That's it. Innovation happens anywhere. It happens in BizTalk. It happens in Azure. It happens in mainframe IS400 that's still used today. Okay? And it's still very old technology. And still plenty of use today. Okay? Banks, all of banks have AS400 mainframe and COBOL inside. And believe me, I know from the last worst experience. But there it is there, okay? And sorry, I wake up at 3 in the morning, so sorry about some of my jet lag or a little bit tired. And do not think that by removing BizTalk from the equation, you never need to face migrations. Okay? So if you go into Azure, there is going to be migrations also in Azure. So we start in Azure Functions. The core was 2.0. Now core of the Azure Functions 3.0. We have to migrate these. Otherwise, they're going to be deprecated. There was a HISE environment. It's deprecated now. Well, you can name it whatever it is. It is a migration from HISE to other service. Azure Functions, large cap consumptions, or large cap standards. It's still migrations happens no matter if you use BizTalk or if you are going to use Azure. Okay? And don't go and jump directly for migration, okay? You will never should go to your BizTalk and say, we are going to migrate this solution and start migration tomorrow, okay? That's a big mistake. First, you have to look about the foundations of Azure, okay? Because Azure is not a VM that we have with BizTalk and we can start create some solutions. There is kind of naming conventions, there is how we use resource groups, how we are going to use subscriptions, and so on and so forth. All of this matters. All of this has to be defined before, it should be defined before you start going and start doing all of this. And many organizations are still not that on that phase. They may think that they are going to use Azure, but a lot of them don't have this kind of rules and policies what you need to do, okay? And again, I'm going to speak a little bit that further. And do not plan a big bang migration. It's not saying that I'm going to migrate all my BizTalk and then I'm going to just turn on the key and start everything on Azure. That's going to be a huge time consuming. And guess what? Probably when that happens, most of the parts are already discontinuous and you have to kind of migrate some stuff in Azure. Just go, pick some pieces and migrate and keep doing that, okay? Do not plan a big bang migration. Now, again, foundations. Before we start migrating BizTalk or any application to Azure, we need to think a little bit about the basics of Azure itself, okay? What stack we are going to use in terms of service that's going to build our middleware platform, okay? So are we going to use API management, large cap standard, consumption? What is our key pieces that we are going to use, and that's going to be our main service in terms of Microsoft integration, okay? Have a good subscription policy. There is a subscription called dev test. Okay, dev test is for non-production environments. You have costs are less than using the normal subscription, because if you create any kind of service in a normal subscription, you pay that. No matter if it's their Q&A or prod, it's prod for Microsoft. So a Service Bus Premium, it is the cost of a Service Bus Premium, no matter if you call it dev test or production, it is a production. So some kind of service in a dev test policy subscription has less cost, less SLA, of course, because it's a non-production subscription. And then I'm going to use subscription for controlling what is a dev environment, a Q&A environment, or a production environment. Also, we can have these kind of decisions, or we are going to say we are going to use only one subscription, and we are going to deal that in a different ways. And again, resource group policies. What is a resource group? Naming convention about resource groups. Are going to use one subscription and then different resource group to control what is their Q&A in production, because we still have this kind of concept in Azure, no? A dev environment, a production environment, and a Q&A environment, okay? And what about security policies, okay? It's a dev consultant do everything in the dev resource or in a dev subscription, but are you going to allow them to go to production subscription and touch that? I don't think so, okay? You have to create these policies, okay? And we do create a lot of these in saying that everything that is in there, we can do it manually, edit everything, but everything that is Q&A production has to be through CI/CD process. No one is going to allow them to go there and touch. And if there is a special requirement, then you have to request special access, and for a period of time, we can go access, troubleshoot, and fix that, but then fix the rest by CI/CD. But, well, we cannot leave the problem in production for that time. So in some cases, we have to go and do some time to make. Tag policies about costings, that's important for the company. So this is always that you have to think about before you still start doing some kind of migration. And Azure naming conventions. I fight a lot with clients and even with my team about naming conventions. It's annoying, I know, but it's important. Okay, because if you start giving names based on your imagination, I will create one name, you will create another one, you will create another one, and no one knows what it is, okay? And the problem is not the developer, it's the guy that is going to monitor in the Azure, and he is going to be in a difficult position because he doesn't know nothing about this. So it's important to have for each resource a good naming convention and keep that naming convention. I normally say, I don't care about your naming convention as long as you create your naming convention that works for your company, your client, stick with that. If it works for you, keep that. For me, there is no, my naming convention is best than your naming convention. It is what the client decides, but keep it constant, okay? And then, kind of, what is going
What?
Not this one.
Let's see.
I don't have any Netflix button here. But I was going to say that I know the slide. What is your end-to-end tracking strategy? Okay, we can do a lot of tracking inside Azure for each particular resource. But at some point, you have to understand what is end-to-end tracking. I need to know a message arrived and what is the flow of that message. And it's not that simple because BizTalk, you have an admin console, you know the receive port, orchestrations, send port, you have everything there. That will not happen out of the box in Azure. Now, it can go to our API management, it can call a logic app, it can go to the service bus, an Azure function, logic app, Azure function, another logic app, to another system, and you have to know these flows, okay? Or you kind of go and look for each resource and try to find out, or you create some kind of strategies and you have to create them, okay? And again, if it's end-to-end tracking, what's going to be your monitoring capability strategies, okay? What you want to do. Error handling and retry capabilities, okay? And I mentioned error handling here. It's quite simple to do. Try catch. That's it. Okay? Trust me. Try to find the correct error information inside the logic app. It's not that simple as you imagine. Okay? You cannot go get the error message. So if you are in C#, exception.message, you get the result. See? In logic app, you have to call the REST API of logic app, give the subscription, the resource loop, the run history, read the run history, fetch, get the error, and then get the description of the error. This is the only way. Okay? As the Mandalorian says, the only way. There is no good way to get the error message unless that. So try to see what is your error handling strategies and retry capabilities also. Persistent and re-entry. What can be re-entered? What is try and forget? How and when to persist the message, okay? And what to use, of course. And deployment policies. This is very important, okay? Because again, no one allows you to go to production and create it manually. And I faced this problem because I had one client that I create all the rules, and then my solution has a function that is to deploy, logic app that is to deploy, and then he has service bus with queues, topics, and access policies. That's not code. Right? That's kind of interesting. You don't create any code to create a topic or a subscription or a queue. It's kind of infrastructure, no? And I went to the client and say, we need to create these in production. So can you give me access to go and create? No, somebody told me that no one creates manually this stuff. You have to do by CI/CD. Okay, and how? I have to learn bicep scripts to do that. But again, create these deploy policies and respect that. Okay, it's very important, and you have to stick with that. And development strategies and policies also. This is important. Why? If you create a logic app, depending on the logic app, you can create on the portal, on Visual Studio Code, or in Visual Studio 2019. Okay? None of my solutions we create in the Azure portal because there is no good source control or CI/CD. So no one is going to do that. We have to use these tools. And we have these rules about saying that for each service, we use these developer tools. Because I don't want them to have all the teams saying, okay, I'm going to use Azure Function when one uses Visual Studio 2022 and the other use Visual Studio Code because they like it. Okay? No. Everyone has to respect that because I want to seem consistent inside the organization. Okay? So you see that with all of these, then, and there is a lot of things more that you have to do it, then you say that, okay, I build my foundation, I have everything that I need, networking, access policies, resource, naming conventions, everything, then I can go ahead and start planning my migration, okay? So what we need to do, okay? First, and always do an assessment of what we have inside BizTalk, okay? This is very important because many of the people that are going to migrate the solutions are not BizTalk guys. And they have to know what is inside BizTalk to understand that. And when I mean an assessment, I mean some kind of this documentation. I use a lot the BizTalk document that is giving me a good technical documentation It has all the diagrams, the orchestration, the ports, configurations, but I also create this kind of visual information where I just say what are the connection systems that I'm able to connect. So we have a kind of an overview situation. And even I can create some kind of document, high level document with the most important stuff. And people can read and start how they are going to resync that in terms of migration. And well, after the assessment, how we are going to design the new solutions inside the Azure function, the Azure Integration Service, okay? What service are we going to use, how and when we are going to use that, and so on and so forth, okay? Next. And that means that I'm going to build my architecture. I'm going to say, and this is not the service or the slide that I present to my client. So mainly, if I want to design my Azure integration middleware on the cloud, I have API management to expose my APIs. I'm going to have logic app, no matter if consumption or standard is the logic app. As a function is going to be there almost always, because that also gives me extra functionalities on the logic apps that doesn't exist by default. Event hubs, because I can easily do a logging with API management with event hubs. As a function, I can log with event hubs. Logic app also, and that can be app insights, whatever. I don't care, because I put in event hubs and then I decide where to fetch that data and insert somewhere to show the logins. I will have service bus for sure, because that's where I can persist and do asynchronous integrations. And Key Vault, okay, that's not an Azure integration service, but Key Vault is where I put the secrets, okay? So again, there are a lot of things that still, there is a lot of networking behind the scenes, BNet and so on and so forth, that is not here. But this is kind of my middleware stuff that I normally create, okay? And when to use each of them, okay? If I want low latencies, really low latencies, I'm not going to use logic app, okay? I'm going to use an API or a function, but not logic app, okay? You cannot achieve 200 milliseconds with logic app. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's kind of, I couldn't do that until now, okay? Seconds, yes. 200 milliseconds? Not really, but with BizTalk again, by the way, okay? And then it's kind of, I need to see what is inside BizTalk and what to migrate. So if I say message routing, I'm saying that probably service bus, queue topics, but there is a lot of things also. As a cache Redis can be also used. API management, you can do content-based routing with API management if you want, depending on the requirements that we have. But there is no one-to-one match, okay? There is one-to-many. Okay? Depending on the scenario, we have to adapt and choose. Schemas, of course, depending on what you are going to use. If it's logic app consumption, then probably you are going to use an integration account, logic app, storage account. We can do a custom solution with storage account as a functions to also store our schemas, or logic app standard that has out-of-the-box functionalities for that. Mapping the same, kind of the same stuff of the schemas. There is a new kid on the block, the data mapper. Okay, that's the new mapping about logic app standard. It's in private preview still, but it's going to be one of the future of the transformations inside logic app. Pipelines, we don't have a pipeline component or a pipeline concept inside Azure. What we can do is create a logic app that works as a pipeline, okay? Or API management that works as a pipeline or as a functions, but there is no pipeline concept inside Azure, okay? An adapter, we have connectors, okay? But we can also use, for example, logic app as a connector, okay? And I'm going to present that in the last session. And Azure function can also be kind of an adapter. Orchestration, yes, logic app, but we can also do by code, by Azure functions or API apps. Okay? Again, depending on scenario, what you want to do. There is no business rules in Azure. Microsoft is working on that. I don't know if they are going to release soon or not, but there is no business rules. But you can do the same depending on the scenario with logic app, key vaults, configurations, functions, SQL. We can create our business rules. Okay, it's not that difficult. There is no BAM. Again, Microsoft is working on that, and they show that in Integrate. But still, something that is coming. But we can do kind of the same with monitoring, analytics, a custom solution, but we can create that BAM concept. Okay. Tracking, there is nothing like BizTalk that you go to resource and enable tracking, disable tracking, and so on and so forth. We have the logic app run history, the tracked properties, storage account, Azure monitoring. Again, depending on the scenario, we have to kind of build that. ADI, we have an integration account and logic apps for do that. Accelerators like RosettaNet, we have integration account, we have HL Server support nowadays, also in Azure, and some kind of Swift, but I'm not too familiar with that, to be honest. Okay. And this abstraction by code and connectivity that BizTalk is that we use binding files. Okay, there is no this concept inside Azure. That's more about DevOps and bicep scripts, and you can do this kind of different configuration from dev and production and so on and so forth. Okay. And again, there is no SSO. We have the key vault, SQL Server, app configurations. What else? Okay. Cross-referencing, this kind of a feature inside BizTalk. Luckily, not many people use it, but there is a table to do some cross-reference, to do some kind of mapping about IDs and so on and so forth. Doesn't exist. You have to create by using, for example, SQL Server, kind of easy stuff to do also. And configurations, again, key vault, SQL, app configurations, you name it. Okay. And after that, after we develop for that, design, we have to test and deploy everything. Okay. But again, two most important parts are the first two ones. Okay. And the rest has to flow. But I would guess, choose a simple application, migrate, and then start all over again, okay? And that's it. We learn for failures. So do not think that even by doing all of these, you are not going to fail, because you are going to fail, okay? But important is that we learn from that, and on the next solution, we are going to improve that, okay? We are going to be better on the second migration, and the third, and so on and so forth. Okay. So learn and move next. Me, along Michael, Stefan, Thomas, and a lot of guys in Microsoft, we create this architecture guide for migration. It's public. Go there. You have the slides are going to be available. You have the link there. I think it's a good starting point. Well, we have to survive. Okay. I promised my kid to show this last slide. I have 3 kids. I work full day, and normally when he goes to bed and say, "Daddy, are you going to work?" I say, "A little bit. Are you going to get some money?" "Yeah, I'm trying." And the reason he say that is that he wants Lego from Star Wars. And I promise that all contribution that happens is going to be for him to buy the Legos. So you have the QR code. If you want to contribute, we buy me a coffee. I'm happy. It's not for me, it's for that little cell there, and he will be a happy guy. With that, I finished my first session. I hope you enjoy that, and you have a Q&A session later on. If you have questions, you can go and address that. Okay.